Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Connecting Highline and our region.
History, cultural heritage, art, performances, contemporary pop culture.
We collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people.
We want to embrace our differences and similarities.
We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Hi everyone, this is Nancy from the Highline Heritage Museum and welcome back. Today we have a very beautiful lady in the house and I'm so excited to welcome her today. And I'm not going to introduce her. She's going to introduce herself and then she's going to really explain the work that she does and the things that we and maybe in some areas we overlap in the work that we do, but mostly it will be about her institution, her work. But before we start, I wanted to say thank you for joining us tonight. And once again, this is about this project, this radio interview, this radio project is all about making sure that you feel welcome, that you don't have to come to this space to actually learn about what's happening in your community, what's happening around us. Quite the opposite. We want to address that people know some demographics don't like to come to the museums for different reasons. Some of them might have transportations and so on. Factors that are in place as to why they don't come to the space. So regardless if it is on radio, in person, we welcome you. And also would like to say thank you to Kris for allowing us to have this opportunity to get to know her and get to know more about the work that she does. And so thank you.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for inviting me to have a chat with you. And also, it's just a pleasure to visit the Highline Heritage Museum.
Yay.
This is my first time here. And I appreciate the tour and what a fabulous place for the community.
Yes.
So much to learn and so many great things for all ages, as you mentioned before. So I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And so right after this, we're just going to let Kris share with us who she is. But before we start also, just wanted to say that the opportunity to bring all the institutions from outside of the Highland area is really meaningful to us too, because some people might not be able to travel to Seattle, but still the idea of knowing what's happening is something that is crucial for all of us. So thank you for that. Okay, now we're ready. So Kris, tell us, who are you and what you do and where are your passions? Just share with us about who are you?
Okay, well, I mean, that's a big question with many layers, but I am, I am new to Seattle. I'm sort of in this transitional period in my life. And so currently I call this sort of the evolution of Kris.
Okay.
Because I just recently left my home of Los Angeles, where I've lived for 23 years, and moved to Seattle. And I haven't been here quite 1 year yet. So I am sort of rediscovering who I am, but I am in my dream job right now at the Henry Art Gallery. I'm the new director there, the John S. Benke director. And I'm just thrilled to be here and also to be discovering Seattle, a brand new city that I haven't really known much about. So it's been very warm and welcoming. I've been able to really, I feel like I know half of the city already. It's been wonderful, but I come to Seattle and to, the broader community with a career in the art world for almost 30 years. I hate to say that because I feel like it really ages me, but that is the truth. And I started when I was 18 or younger. Wow. But I think that, my real passion lies in art, but it's really about helping artists. So early in my career, when I was an undergrad, I wanted to be an artist.
Okay.
And I studied mostly photography and also life drawing, two loves of mine. And I tried to make it as a photographer for a short time after I graduated. And my parents at the time were like ready to kill me. They were like, you need to get a job. It was not very lucrative. And I realized like how the kind of commitment you need to be an artist. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to work on the business end of this world and help artists. I know what it means to be a creator. I've worked in all different mediums. And so that sort of really launched my career, sort of working on the business end. And the through line, I think, through all the positions that I've had at all the different museums and arts related organizations, has really been about supporting artists and giving a platform to artists. And I would say my true love is really kind of staying away from the mainstream and supporting those that are falling a little bit under the radar, and giving them the space and the resources to be seen. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
you share already a lot. I mean, I can ask you so many questions already just by the information that you just share. I like the concept of welcoming people to your space and actually share their stories through their work.
Mhm.
And then I love the idea that you actually know what it is to be an artist, is struggling, and then just, like you said, it's not something that you make much money with. And then the stigma that parents or society, well, where are you artists? You need to have a real job. But now we're in institutions and we lead on these institutions that we are actually in a professional level, allowing artists to be professionals. And so it is really hard in times to be able to acknowledge, no, this is not just a hobby. It is a profession. It is something that needs to be acknowledged and to be respected. And so I'm glad that this providing the spaces where it's like, no, you know what? You are respected. You art matters, and I love that. I love that you provide this space. And I think that one of the questions I was going to ask is why, but I think you answered it. But I don't know if you want to elaborate. Why the arts? I know that there's something that you organically an artist, as you just share, but is any other layers as to why?
Yeah, I mean, when I was, growing up, I really owe it to my mother who, was always taking my brothers and I to museums and to the performing arts. We all played music. I come from a very
Wow.
musically inclined family. I played the violin for 11 years.
Wow.
And at one point in my life, we lived in a small town where there were not a lot of cultural offerings. So, and this was in the early 80s. So it was like we'd pack up the old Buick station wagon and we would go on road trips. And I'm the youngest, so I was always in the way, way back with my dog, which led to a lot of car sickness. But anyway, we would go and drive all around the country to sort of explore. And that was really, I feel like my dad was into it, but it was really my mom pushing for that so that we learned about our country, learned about the world, and could appreciate different cultures. And so even when I was young, my mom sent my brother and I to Europe, for almost, for half of a summer, just
Cool.
to explore. I think we went to like 6 different countries, when we were like very young teenagers. And then also, again, going back to that small town, my mom started this program where, because there were no arts offerings in the school. So my mom started this mini arts program where she would come in and introduce one of the great master artists to students. And so, one class was on Monet and one was on Renoir. And so that was sort of like my early exposure to that. And I loved it. And I loved that my mom was doing that. And so when I went to college in undergrad, first I was like an English lit major, and then I switched to psychology, and then I switched to philosophy. Like I had so many interests. And then art, of course, I wanted to be an art major. But it was really when I started taking art history classes that I realized it wasn't just about art, right? It was about actually history and sociology and anthropology and, like what was happening economically. Like there was so much that it embraced that I thought, wow, like this is where I want to be. This is about exploring all the rich histories in our world and our cultures and learning about different people and cultures. Um, and so that's what sort of got me excited about it. And that's what started it for me. That, and also I danced, I played instruments, like I was always involved in the performing aspect too. And that's where I felt my heart was really full when I was, participating in that way.
I think that when you're in a profession where you're providing that platform for other artists, is because you relate in a way. You are sensitive enough to knowledge and value and see that through traveling. I always tell people that the best way to learn more about yourself is traveling. And then the more differences you see from yourself, the more confirmed you are in your identity. Okay, this is me, either culturally or not. My first ideal job was going to be cultural anthropologist. And so I always loved the idea of just learning about different cultures from the angle of understanding of human condition or human factor. And so you are an artist already with the musicians and photography. And so it's a nice surprise to find that you're really multi-talented, that you don't just live in
Well,
an
I mean,
organization.
I don't practice anymore. That was all just sort of that was like my foundation, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm not continuing to do all of that at once. I mean, now I'm a museum director, which means I have no time for anything else.
But who knows, maybe in the future, as you get more time, I'm saying that you will be able to embrace things that
I hope so.
identifies you who you are.
I hope so. I would really like to go back to making. I've sort of dabbled here and there, but I do see that for myself
Moving forward.
moving forward.
Yeah. And I
I'd
think
like to make time for it. Yeah.
balance. I think that balance is such
Mhm.
a crucial thing that we all need to encourage. Now, with the Henry art,
Yeah.
tell me any cool exhibits, projects, what's going on with the organization?
I mean, always, always. I'm so excited to be at the Henry. I feel like coming in with fresh eyes, from sort of the museums that I worked at in New York and LA. There really is no institution quite like the Henry. It is an extraordinary place. And yes, there's always an incredible exhibition on view at the Henry. I think that, like I was saying, this is one reason why I love being at the Henry, is that we are supporting these artists that they're award winning, they're collected, but they're not getting their first solo shows right away. So we want to be the first to do that. And I will just, humble brag. 4 artists that are in the Whitney Biennial this year that have had shows at the Henry. So it's like our curatorial team is really, they have their finger on the pulse. Like they know, who the rising stars are. And there's so many, there's so many of them. It's hard to not be able to be there for everyone. But we also are very special because we have for a long time commissioned artists, which means we give them the space and the resources to push the boundaries of their practice. And right now we have an exceptional exhibition on view by Raul de Nieves, who's from Mexico but lives and works in New York right now. And he was able to, we brought him down to the space and said, what would you like to do? This was actually before my time. So the curator did, Nina Bazichnik, who's amazing. She said, what would you like to do? And he looked at our skylights and he said, I want to do something with the skylights. So there are just these beautiful stained glass pieces covering our skylights that sort of reference like mythology and like Dia de los Muertos. And I mean, there's just all kinds of references and influences in the pieces. So you have to come and spend time. It's a very beautiful meditative space. But I encourage everyone to come and see it before it closes in August. But we're getting ready to open an exhibition on July 18th with Korean American artist Lucy Kim, and also in early September with A.K. Burns. And in the fall, Tala Madani, who's going to be doing new work as well as showing existing work. So some of these names you might not be familiar with, but that's great. We want people to be able to come and learn about these incredible artists that are really sharing their perspectives on the world right now with you, because it is an educational experience every time, and it's multimedia. You're going to see everything from photography to video to paintings, and to Lucy Kim's work, who she uses melanin in her work and creates these incredible pieces. Like it's very biology focused, her
Wow.
practice. So
Wow.
there's a lot to learn. And I like to say that, the Henry is a place to come for a fix of the unexpected.
Nice. I like
So
that.
I feel like, yeah. And then I just want to also say that in October 18th, we're going to have a fall opening. So the whole museum will be activated. We'll have the artists there. They'll be able to speak and we'll do like a public program. But then 2 weeks later, we're doing like a really big open house where we'll activate the museum with performance and collaboration and art making for all ages. So there's a lot to look forward to come the fall, but this summer as well. Like there's never a dull moment at the Henry.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. One thing I like about what you just said, all these different artists and in the way they come into this space is that they are coming as themselves. They are art to me is an expression of who you are as a human being and just let people see that through the pieces that you provide. And there, for me, art represents freedom. And it's not like you have to copy somebody else to fit in. You don't have to do something specifically to be accepted. You don't have to do, it's more about who you are as an individual and being able to come forward and say, this is me. And being born upon a place of saying, I'm open to be judged or not. And so the idea of also as an institution providing a space, you also extending that message of, okay, unique pieces, unique experiences. You need a unique way of how you interpret the art. What I like about this type of institutions that we work on is also how the human factor plays in interacting with the exhibits. For example, who would a person with disabilities or a young person or an immigrant or someone from different background, how are they experiencing art? And everyone is completely open to interpretation. And so I love that. I like that unexpected twist that you just said.
Yeah, a
And
fix
it
of
is
the
just,
unexpected.
yeah, it's
I do
just
like that.
the freedom of saying, okay, it's just you're gonna see something that is not something like this, like in other places, meaning there is no factory made cup of water that is all the same, that you see this cup of waters and they are completely different from one or the other. And it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And so no, I like that.
I want to say, I just want to mention something that's really important too. Like, in addition to sort of fostering collaboration and providing this space and platform for artists, inclusivity is really a guiding principle at the Henry. The EDI work that the Henry's been doing they've been doing it for decades. It's not anything new. Inclusivity is not a buzzword. It is, I mean, EDI work is baked into everything that we do at the
Yeah.
museum. So we have a reputation, and this is something that we will continue for also prioritizing artists and our collecting that are artists that are BIPOC, LGBTQ plus, any marginalized communities. This is really important to us as well, and has been for a very long time, for decades. So this is a big part of how the Henry distinguishes itself.
Yeah, I've been giving a lot of presentations lately. Last week I was at the keynote at the school district and talking about racism and discrimination and accessibility issues and so on. And one of the elements that I share with everyone was that the human factor, all of us, empathy, compassion, seeing, being kind to another person, that to me is inclusivity. That to me is accessibility. That you're not doing it because you attach it to one policy, that you're not doing it because you had to follow the law and you had to make a space more accessible. I think that is just you being kind enough to another person to understand that everyone has different, uh, you know, lives and then we experience this thing called life in a different way and just your moral values and it speaks loudly as who you are as a human being when you're able to say, you know what, to a little kid it's okay, to an adult, to a person with disabilities, to a person who has no even idea how to speak the language. And so thank you for that. And I'm glad that you are using those values because to me, they're more than policies or statements or values as an institution, as the values of that we can call names and titles and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about our actions and how we we present and how we open the house. I tell my volunteers here, this is your home. So just welcome people as who you do it if it was home. And so thank you for
I like
opening
that.
your home,
Yeah.
home into inclusive values. So now you have you've been sharing what is happening next. But what about your favorite projects through your career? Do you have anything, any experience? I know that you already share a little bit about your upbringing and why are you in the position you're in. But what about something cool and experience, no matter what institution that you work in?
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh, I've had so many cool projects that I've worked on. I would say that, there was a period in my life where I was just finishing up grad school in New York, and I was working at the Whitney Museum, which of course everyone knows is a very prestigious museum. But I had been an intern there, and then they had hired me on as a temp, and then they had offered me a full-time position, and the salary was so low, which I know as young people, as we have navigated the working in the art world, like this is just part of the deal. It's a nonprofit museum, and the salary, you're not going to be a millionaire working at a museum. It's
No.
just the reality. So I had been in touch with this entrepreneur in Los Angeles who was working on these large scale public art projects. And I've always been interested in public art. I had worked on a couple other projects in my past, and I really loved the work. And she basically, gave me some consulting work to start on this project with Cindy Sherman, Barbara Kruger, Louise Lawler, and Jenny Holzer. And so long story short, I ended up quitting my job at this prestigious museum at the Whitney and selling my apartment in New York and moving back to Los Angeles to work on this project. It was called Women in the City, and it was in over 100 sites throughout Los Angeles. And it was, again, working with those artists. And I remember Barbara Kruger calling me on my cell phone pretty often. And like, what a trip it was, like looking at my phone and seeing like Barbara Kruger is calling you. And these were artists. I mean, I would say I was very young, and I was like, these were artists that, I only studied about in my art history books and in my classes. And now I was actually getting to work with them and their studios and actually project manage an entire public art project with them. So that was a really exciting project that I did and that I worked on with a team. But it was award winning, and there was this beautiful layout in the New York Times magazine on it, and I was really proud of that project. And it was fun. It was really fun.
There's a lot of stories that we can attach to institutions and projects, and some of them are painful, meaning going through struggles with budget or personalities and situations and institutions. But there's also this other side of knowing that people can see the work that you do, and then some of them might be judgy, and then some of them might actually recognize it, like, hey, this is super cool. And so congratulations for having those experiences where people can actually see through your work and see.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of something incredible at every institution that I've worked at, at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. I mean, just getting to, be a part of the incredible shows. Like I remember James Turrell's retrospective, and Pierre Huyghe did this incredible show. And I think one of my favorite exhibitions was Agnes Martin. She was just, I mean, oh, that was an amazing, amazing show. And like the art and film galas. And my first year, I was tasked with being Martin Scorsese's sort of like right hand to like make sure he was okay during the gala.
Gosh.
I know, it was just like all of these wild experiences. There's a famous photobomb of me with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West that was like on some kind of gossip site, like Pop Sugar or something. But there's all of these like funny like things that I've been involved in, just sort of exciting and like kind of crazy at the same time. But then I think about other really meaningful things, like at the Fowler Museum at UCLA, fundraising for, I mean, this exhibition on this Haitian artist, Mirlan Constant. and how at first it was like no one knew who she was. And she, um, she lives in Port-au-Prince, and she creates these incredible hand-beaded tapestries. Um, and it was really hard to fundraise for her show, but I ended up coming up with a strategy that worked, and I was able to fully fundraise for the show. And her exhibition and and the accompanying catalog this was the very first exhibition of a Haitian female artist in the United States, of a Haitian female contemporary artist in the United States, and her first ever publication.
Wow.
So that is where my heart is, to be able to do that. We did the same thing with these Aboriginal artists that live in the top end of Australia. And they came for the very first time they were ever out of, Australia, out of the bush, I'll say, and their first time on a plane into Los Angeles. And I got to spend a whole day with them, like driving them around. We went to the Santa Monica Pier and to Sunset Strip. And so, I feel like I've just had some really incredible experiences in my work life. Yeah, in my career.
No, I think that's what career should be. Being able to collect awesome experiences, being able to find meaning to the work that we do. I don't think I can see myself working in a more corporation planet. I need to have a purpose, something behind it, something that I can chew on with my soul, not just meeting my basic needs, house, money, whatever other people might think. It's more about finding meaning to those experiences. And so when you collect them enough, that's when you look back and like, okay, I think it was worth it. I think it was great to go through this spot and being able to experience more of that. If a little girl who was watching you right now, what message would you give her when it comes to your career and then the experiences and accumulation? I mean, for me, when my daughter got, well, she's not little anymore, she's 17, and little monster, I'll say that. Just more challenging at this museum. But the one thing that I'm learning that is the ability to pass it from message from one generation to the next, and then get them inspired to choose and to be free to who they are in general. And so, what message will you pass it into her or to a group or?
Yeah. That's a good question. I would say, follow your heart. This road or this career has not always been easy, but it's something that I felt so strongly about, that this is what I wanted to pursue. And I will mention, because it's a funny story, but going back to what we were talking about earlier, I actually had to lie to my parents to major in art history and
Oh my
studio art.
God.
I told them, because my dad was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, no way, you're not doing that. You're never going to make a dime in life." So I told him I was an economics major for 4 years, and I lied and I majored in art history and art. And look where I am now. Like, I have my dream job, but I'm just saying, like, don't let things get in your way. And also, when you choose a profession, do something that you really love, because I don't feel like my job is a job. Like, I love what I do every single day. And it's like, yes, it's been a winding path. There have been times where I'm like, what am I doing? There's been times where I've lost my job, or, things like that. But it's like, it's always steered me in some direction. So my advice is just keep going. Follow your passions, your dreams. Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
And, I have the privilege of mentoring a lot of young people in the field. I am a visiting lecturer at New York University, my alma mater, and the Masters of Arts Administration students I speak to. And I do talk about museum best practices, but they all want to know, like, how did you get from here to there?
Yeah.
And it has been a winding path. So I always tell them, like, there are key things, like networking, build your network. If you're growing out of your job, if you want to do something different, have informational interviews. Like, there are just like key things that you want to do. But the important thing is that you don't stop. You keep stay in the process of something. and keep working towards something. And always ask for help. If you're lost, there are people out there that can give you sage advice. And I've been very lucky to have those people in my life. So
Yeah, to us is our volunteers, our community members, our board members, everyone. I mean, it's always a joy to walk into space and knowing that so many people care for that institution and being able to support it. But for going back to your message to the little ones, I love that. I love that it's about you. It's about you empowering yourself to believe in you, to do something you really want to do, and something that says, you know what, despite of different reasons why I should not be doing something, kind of shuts down that noise and saying, no, you know what, it is possible. I'm just gonna go for it and do it and go for it. So that was, I applaud you for not lying to your parents, but for
don't lie to your parents.
not lie to your parents, but for the ability to see through what you truly mean, what it was true to you. What is like, this is me, and defending that. As a woman, there's a different element to that too. Historically, when you think about the history of women in the field, it's still, it hasn't been that many generations where women actually been leading an institution. And then even me, you know, people will expect a museum director look very specific, you know, and I don't look like a museum director, and everyone don't, the majority of people that I'm just meeting, they don't believe I'm one because I'm not fitting to them all. But there's still, there's a joy behind us to why are we doing the work that we do, and stop the noise and just forward to it. So we got 5 more minutes left. Let me bust like this. It went really quickly. Any last thing that you would like to share, either through your work or another message or something more about you, something that connects people? Yeah, museums are not just an institution and walls. There are actually people in the land. You see a beautiful representation of the museum on here.
Thank you. So kind.
Any last message?
I would just, I think that museums have always had this reputation of being these elitist spaces where, some people don't feel welcome. And I just want to say that this is something that we, for a long time, and I can speak for, I think, most museums in the country, that we are really trying to change that and becoming more civic gathering spaces. So we are open to everyone and to all ages, all demographics. We want to welcome all of you and your children, and I think it's important to also want to educate yourselves. I mean, you're not just coming in to like look at art, but you're coming in to learn about different perspectives in the world and different messages, and how we can all be more sensitive towards each other and learn more about each other's cultures. It's a really wonderful opportunity, and it's inspiring. I mean, one thing that I love about the Henry is that it's part of the University of Washington. So we're an extension of the classroom, but we're also a place for inspiration. We're a place for personal and professional growth, and also a training ground for our next arts leaders, right? So, yeah, I encourage everyone to visit. I mean, we are here for you. That is why we exist in Seattle, and we want everyone to come and participate. And we are also, we have a suggested donation, but most of our people come for free. So you can just come in. There's no barrier there for you, cost barrier. Yeah.
That's a key one right there. A lot of institutions, me as an immigrant and not having money when I came to the country, and just not even knowing if I was welcome to some of these spaces, money was a factor. And so thank you for mentioning that. Another factor is, yes, do I feel welcome? All the way from just a kind smile to say, yes, it's okay, come in. And it's crucial. There, I have letters in my office from little ones thanking me for, then they're writing, thank you for making me feel safe and welcome. And that breaks my heart because they know they have experienced the opposite. For them to be able to write those letters is that they have experienced places where they don't feel safe or they don't feel welcome. And it's heartbreaking. And so I'm glad that you're sharing that, and that is all, when it comes to the term of inclusion, genders, sexual orientation, disabilities, ages, racial heritage and how you represent yourself is something that I'm happy that you share that.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and if you're curious to, learn more about the Henry, we do have a e-newsletter that goes out monthly with our programs, our exhibition openings, any of our big public parties. I mean, our openings are the most fun. We'll have like, I don't know, 600, 800, 1,000 people at our openings.
Wow.
So you don't want to miss that. The other thing is that, I'm speaking as an ambassador of the Henry, but I really just want to take a moment to express my gratitude to the Henry team. I have an incredible staff that is so devoted to the Henry and the Henry's mission, and they do incredible work that yes, I'm grateful for, but also very proud of. And then also we have an incredible board of trustees, and they also are very engaged and are supportive. So I really feel like they are a big part of, or mostly part of all of this work that we're doing. So
This is great.
yeah.
Well, it was fast for me. I wish
Yeah.
it's been a little longer,
Well,
but
thank you for the opportunity. It's so fun chatting with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
thank you for the opportunity to also let people know a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
And the next exhibits are coming up, and the projects and the mission and the values. So thank you, everyone. I hope that you can join us the next time. Okay, bye-bye.
Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM. We envision ourselves sitting at a round table where no one is the leader and stories are heard respectfully, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disabilities, or ethnicity. Our mission is we collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people. We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices represents us all, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and uniting to cultivate our future. This project allows us to reach out to demographics who might be unable to visit the museum. People with disabilities, low-income families, people who don't trust museums, and more. In partnership, we are launching a locally programmed new radio station at the museum, featuring recorded and live Highline's heritage, history, culture, arts, and more. Are you interested in sharing your story? Email director@highlinemuseum.org.